Looking at the lifting screw, you'll download the solid file, and then this will be the solid model. The geometry's been simplified so that this is a cylinder and really don't need all of the swept cut, but it's in there just like we don't need the knurl. But the relief on the center, and then also just the overall length are going to be concerns for this this piece. So we'll look at chucking this up. Don't know that for being mild steel, we might need to center and have the tailstock come in for support. Anyway, this is our solid, so we're going to File, Merge, and under Types, we will find the parasolid files, X_T, and then navigate to where I place those. And we'll bring in the lifting screw. Alright, I'm going to go over to Outline Shaded, and we're going to rotate this 90 degrees. Alright, so that puts the 0, 0 on the nose of the part. Now as we rotate around, you can see some of the geometry. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is set the machine to lathe. Go into our tool settings. And we'll stay with the steel. Properties, we're at 2 inches diameter. Length was 10 and change. So 10 will do it. And if we need to, we'll put in the 1 too. Alright, position along x-axis, we're going to move out 10 thousandths so that there's material to face off of the end. Go ahead and accept. Going into the chuck jaws and the properties, we were 7.18 back, so diameter will be at 2 inches, and let's go 7.5. Alright, so I think that's probably going to be negative 7.5, so yeah. So we're pretty much on this geometry with quite an overhang. Pretty much unsupported geometry at this point. So given the lengths, we'll start off with a facing operation. And let's go ahead and stay with the 80 degree. We'll slow this down a little bit. Constant surface speed of 200, and max RPM for this we'll set at 1000 RPM. Alright, going through library tools, tool filters, miscellaneous values, stock update, canned text. Don't really need any of that right off. Probably the one of interest would be the canned text if we needed to add in stops or machine stops. Alright, so if I stay with the defaults, entry amount, finish, then that will generate our first operation to establish our Z face. Next operation will be to rough, and we have a partial. Oh, we also have a solid. So as soon as we go over to solid, it switches to wireframe. And we're going to pick the first entity, so I'm going to zoom up to where I can see it, get the arrows in place. And then I do want to come off of the chamfer on the rough. Alright, so we're going to stay with the 80 degree tool. Back off on our feed rates, so 0.005 of an inch per revolution. and constant surface speed of 200, and then max spindle speed of 1000. Alright, depth cuts, even equal steps, or we can tell it to go to auto. Depth cut, let's go 30 thousandths, minimum cut of 1,000th. Entry amount 0.1, exit amount 0. Stock to leave, let's drop that down to 5 thousandths and 5 thousandths. And we'll look at the lead in, lead out. So haven't had great luck with the roughing on the entry and exit vector. We already extended the entry, so let's go ahead and extend the lead out. And we'll take a quick look at plunge parameters, that it will bypass any of the reliefs. So I'm going to use the stock for outer boundary and go ahead and start. Alright, so our overruns have a couple of passes, and then we're removing material up through that geometry. Alright, next going in will be, let's go ahead and finish. Pick up the geometry and find our end. And we'll stay with the same tool. And for a finish pass, 2 thousandths, max RPM of 1000. Finish parameters, pretty straightforward. No stock to leave, one finish pass. Probably can get away with the vectors, bringing that out. And then the lead out coming back at 45 degrees. Okay, so this one I overran to clear the material. This one we're backing out of. Alright, so mainly when I turn this around and feed back through this geometry, then I would want to overrun that edge. Alright, so we're going to highlight those and turn the display off. Before we can go into the threading, I want to pick up the groove. And for something different, I included the radius in this one. It's not square. Mainly as a stress riser, that it would reduce the stress rise. Alright, so grooving. Let's go with 3 lines, see if it'll pick up. Alright, so the in, the out, and the OK. Only lines. Alright, so need to back out of that, so Lathe tool groove. So not really allowing me the point, so escape. So go with the multiple chain, and this will probably cause it to come up short, but we'll see how far that gets into the geometry. Alright, so I would like a 1/8 inch grooving tool. See, and that one's right. Okay, and then we're going to go to double end radius. D is 0.125, B is 0.125. And I'll just take a quick look through here. And parameters, slow down. Amount of cut on the rough, and then amount of cut on the finish, stock clearance, if we need those. Alright, grooving, shape parameters, angle 90 degrees. We're not going to rough, this is just going to be a straight plunge. Alright, so I'm not really going to get into the step overs. So that being the case, maybe you want to do the rough and have it peck. Alright, so 100 thousandths on the clearance. That's going to come down on the wall. Still not doing the steps, stock amount. And we'll go ahead and 0 to leave in X and Z. And then the peck. And we'll stay with the 30 thousandth. And go ahead and see what that'll generate. Didn't like the toolpath. Now let's see. Nope. Okay, so no rough. We'll try the finish. Double check. Alright, so we get a toolpath and a little bit of relief. Alright, but not really as deep as I'd like, so that may be something that we'd need to identify in the program and update that value. Alright, for threading tools, we're not supporting a square tool. So the threading right, threading left. Feed rate of 10. Spindle speed of 200. Max we'll keep at 500. Alright, again, these are kind of guesses as we go along, see what the result is. With the threading and the steel tendency to tear, I'm going to keep that number a little bit lower. Alright, the lead, we're going to be 0.25, so our 1 1/4 inch for square thread. Peak to peak, valley to valley, 1/4 inch. Included angle, now get a 50-50 shot at it, we'll go 90 degrees. Now we'll try 180 and 90. Really not expecting this to generate our geometry. 1.25 and 1 inch on the minor. Alright, end position. Minus 7 we made it to 1.8. So let's go ahead and minus 7.1. We'll shorten it up, see how far that'll get. Thread orientation is the OD, taper angle is 0. Really not going to find this thread form, and we'll deal with the allowances after we get into the cut. So 100 thousandths clearance. Cut depth from equal area. As the triangle goes in on a normal 60 degree, as the triangle gets bigger, then the depths of cut reduce. I think we want to do equal depths. And first cut of 10 thousandths seems a little bit heavy, but a good place to start. one spring cut, clearance, lead in angle, and normally 29 degrees, but I'm going to try 45. Cut with the current thread. I think I was referring to that one, but let's go ahead and see. Alright, so if we go back over to View and into Wireframe, yeah, that's a really neat thread. Alright, so what did I tell it to do? Lead. Alright, well, we stay with those. Stay with the defaults. Okay, and the pull-offs, we're not going to angle it out. Well, usually would see the V's. And then the other thing was, let's see, I picked right and 14 thousandths. So B with a 0.195. And different parameters. Okay, update. Oh, and lead is 0.25. Threads per inch is 4. Alright, so I was thinking inches per thread. So let's try that again. Alright, so see the sharp V's? They're pretty much going through the steps and pulling out at the end of the relief. Alright, so that gives me my first start of the geometry. So I'm going to go ahead and save. Alright. Then the one that usually makes me want to start a new file is trying to shift this geometry to the back. There we go. Alt 4. Alright, so get it into to perspective. Now for the machine group, if I just add another toolpath group, it's going to be in this same orientation. Alright, basically the stock setup, the chuck, everything picks up that same group. So we need a new machine group for the lathe. And pick up a program too. So we're assuming no sub spindle, single spindle machine. So we're manually going to turn this around and pick up our geometry. Alright, so we're still in the top. And before I go any further, we're going to jump over to the levels, the planes. And we have currently we're in the graphics and the tool plane. Direction is out. Alright, so I want to add a new lathe plane with a positive D, and what I'm looking at is the positive D, positive Z, and we're going to stay with positive D but make a negative Z, and that was for our upper left. Okay. So if we make that the tool plane, and let's show the gnomes, so D and Z. Alright, back over to the tool paths. And we'll pick up the top plane, and we're going to switch it over to D and Z. Alright, still left spindle, position and orientation. And I'm going to move position on machine, position on stock. We're going to select. Alright, 10.12. And Y. Yeah, that one should have stayed 0. Alright, so in coordinates, global coordinates or world coordinates as opposed to the lathe coordinates. Alright, so let's fly this out where we can see this a little better. Still 2-inch stock, length of 10.12, and position along the x-axis 7 inches. Preview the lathe boundaries. And don't think I got it. Got the D and the Z. Alright, stock left spindle. Okay, we only got part of it. Okay, so I have the plus D, Z. Oh, let's go ahead and set the current. Okay, so construction and tool, and then world. Alright, so let's see if we can get this to line up. Okay, so shifted it a little too far that way. Okay, got the stock ramped up. Orientation. Alright, chuck jaws are going to be at 1 1/4. We're going to hold on to the threads. Alright, so those are still out there. And so we're going to switch to a positive. Alright, so we're chucked up pretty close to the to our geometry. I think that's going to do it for the orientation. So critical that we get everything in that plus D minus Z orientation. Alright, well, okay, So now when I go Alt 1, now the origin did not shift. So that's still a problem. So double check the stock setup. Alright, we're at the plus D minus Z. Okay, OD. Line to define stock axis. Well, we don't really have a line, do we? Okay. Alt 1. Double check. Let's go with the 10,000s. Now that just shifted me back. Okay, so very small. Alright, so my orientation position on stock. Okay, so let's double check. Gotta be something I missed. Alright. So we set the axis at negative Z. Let's shift it to positive Z. Alright, so that took my position along 10 thousandths. Alright, so that's looking better. The origin still didn't update. That gives me a slightly different view. Okay, so that was what I was looking for, is the reference point on the component. But still didn't jump over. Okay, so since DZ didn't move, let's go ahead and with one more. Plane from geometry. Set construction plane by geometry, and then select entity. Well, we don't have any flats. Not getting any selection either. Alright, so that's not looking like a good choice. How about from still not going to let me have the plane. Okay, relative to the WCS, and we were in the top. Now if it'll pick up the X direction, 10.12. Okay, we'll go ahead and set. Alright, and that gets got my origin. Now is facing with my Z negative. Okay, so bottom dash 1. Let's go back to the toolpaths group. Make sure that we select that as the coordinate. Double check our lathe boundaries. Alright, so since that updated, I was chasing that the wrong way. We're going to go back to Z negative. Alright, so we got all these fun parameters to setting up that plane. And then it shoots it out there for the jaws. And that's probably going to be a little far, but okay, bring it a little closer. Alright, that'll work. Alright, so a little bit of gap, but show us the preview. Alright, back to Alt 1. Alright, so it's one of the reasons I said that going through the process of setting the plane, getting in the correct orientation, getting the stock, getting the origin placed on the new nose, it's about as easy just to start a new file, and I can't say that this is the most intuitive process. Alright, so let's go ahead with the lathe toolpaths and face. Going to stay with our 80-degree. And this is going to be a little more rigid. Max at 1000 RPM. Stay with the default face parameters and pretty much in and out. Lathe toolpaths. I'm going to stay with the rough. Contour rough would tend to follow. So pretty much this will be the contour rough as opposed to just picking our geometry. One of the things you want to be careful of is you can select this bottom, but since we don't have a turret facing that direction, we will want to pick up our geometry. Alright, so the roughing. And then staying with the rough parameters, let's go with equal steps of the 30,000 still. Not so much lead in, lead out on this one, but the plunge parameters, we'll make sure that it ignores that relief at the end. Okay, so those all go in and make the cut. Previously we ran the stock off that way, so now we have that material. So face, rough, and then we're going to groove. So we'll go with the 3 lines. And in. Must be the same length, alright. Alright, so let's just try the chain. Alright, so we'll need to double check. Alright, so standard insert. And drop that down to 1000. Go back to 1000. Let's see, at 1/8 of an inch, we're pretty much, and we'll see if we can pack. Just went 10 thousandths to see if it's going to cooperate. Alright, so rapid move violates tool clearance boundary. Just save the operation, go back into the parameters. See what we have for the lead-in. Minus 135 degrees. That's going to be off. Alright, so it picked up the geometry out here. Well, since it doesn't want to plunge, embedded in the stock. Alright, looking at the chain, that should have picked up all of that. Okay, 90 degrees. Group parameters. It's not really going to matter. Okay. So cut direction negative, starting from the outside, moving to the end. Moving in towards the spindle, no finish. Have the tool path. Let's go ahead and turn the display off for the rough. You can see the tool path come in and groove out our center. Alright, so there's no parting operation, but we do have the couple of undercuts. And then, let's see, going to the center, we'll go with the drill. So let's go with a spot drill, 1/2 inch. 10 thousandths of an inch per revolution, 200 max spindle speed. Now we'll bump it up a little bit. Depth minus 0.5. So 1/2 inch. And I need to back that off. 1/2 inch will generate a 1/2 inch all the way up to the edge break, but that's going to cut into the threads a little bit. So 0.4. Not worried about the drill points, location, and no custom parameters. Alright, so let's go back to wireframe. I want it picked up the spot. Oh, so since I didn't get a center drill, I got the spot drill, so 90 degrees. I'm going to need to change that to minus 0.25. And and update. Alright, so that's just basically going to do an edge break. If it was a center drill, we'd be going in a little deeper and have a 60-degree angle to contend with on those first couple of threads. Alright, then going in on the drill. Alright, default drills. Well, let's go with the smaller. Okay, we have center drill, 1/8 inch, 375, 1/2 inch. Alright, so picks up the diameters, but when we go to the library tools, we're not treated to the same listing. So tool geometry for a 1/2-20 will be about 450. All right, we need to look at the drill chart to see what's going to be close to that, but that'll give us better geometry. So it updates, creates a new tool. We're going to switch over to peck drill. -1 1/4. See how far that gets. First peck will go 50 thousandths, and subsequent peck 20 thousandths. And then if we need clearance, 5 thousandths of clearance. Alright, from the end of the part, 0.25 and 0.1. No custom. Alright, so 1.25 went a little too far. And regenerate the toolpath. Alright, so lathe toolpath. Alright, so we're not set up. If I tell it to go thread, it's going to want to do a boring operation, or an internal ID threading operation, not set up for a tap. So what would be start then, I have to check the codes, is let's go ahead and treat it as a drill. We're going to find the 1/2 inch diameter drill. And we're going to let it know that it's a right-handed tap. 0.5 threads per inch is 20. I'm not so concerned with overall lengths as keeping the drill, but let's go to the parameters. So 200 RPM would amount to 10 inches per minute. Alright, so we're not doing the peck, it goes to a tap. Okay. Go from the peck drill over to the tap drill. And dwell. Let's go 0.88. And no custom parameters. Alright, so that does the relief and gets us through the geometry. Alright, so make sure to save. And let's go ahead and look. Alright, so I'm back to Alt1. Let's fit. Okay, so all selected. Now we'll go ahead and do the back plot. Yes, that gives me the basis for the geometry. Alright, so if we just go to the machine group, and verify, we'll get one end. Alright, so that generated all the geometry. Oh, and actually, this roughing pass, we should have brought it down to 2 inches, so I missed. Alright, so on the rough, let's see, we'll go into the geometry. Let's just go ahead and rechain. Picks the first, and then pick the last. Alright, so now when it sees that that groove, then it becomes a little more important what we're going to give it on the plunge parameters. So the 80-degree tool doesn't have a lot of end relief to allow it to get into that geometry. And we'll go ahead and regenerate. Okay, so pretty much one or two passes across the top. And we're getting some extra surfacing there, so let's go to the outline. Okay, that looks better. And did I not put a finish in there? Apparently not. Alright, lathe groove, lathe drill. Alright, lathe toolpaths, we're going to go to finish. Pick the same geometry, stay with our settings. Finish parameters, plunge parameters, alright, making sure that it's still going to jump over. Alright, so that comes in and does the finish and back retracts away from the spindle. Alright, so we'll let those update and then hide the display. Okay, so we've gone through the operations lathe toolpath. Now we'll go with the contour rough. And we'll need to go to a tool that has quite a bit more relief, so 35 degree. We'll go with 10 thousandths, constant offset. Okay, so 0.05 for 5 thousandths. Alright, lead in, lead out, 180 degrees, go to 45, depends on where it leads in though, so let's go to 135, and then lead out at 45, that should be okay. Minimum cut, 10 thousandths, and we're going to go one way, so, okay. Alright, so lead in, let's extend. I think the directions are okay. We'll just give it a little bit extra. Okay, so let's double check the geometry. Oh, and plunge parameters. Alright, clearance angles. Now let's increase those a little bit. See if that'll get it away. Stock to leave amount. It may have been changing the wrong one there. Okay, so I've got too many settings going on here, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that operation. Add in lathe toolpath. We'll go back into the contour rough. Set the direction. Alright, we'll go back and find the 35 degree. Alright, so we won't get too crazy on changing numbers this time. Stock to leave. Plunge parameters are allowing in both directions. Lead in, lead out. Well, if it's coming in from this way, let's go -45. So come in at an angle and +45 on the exit. Made one cut. Alright, need a few more than that. That's still pretty heavy. Alright, so minimum cut, 10 thousandths, minimum error. Entry mount. Well, would have liked to add a few more passes than that. Okay, so I'll offset of 1. Let's see if that'll give us a few more. Alright, so in, take a couple of passes, and then the last one will be to finish. Pick up the same geometry. And we'll stay with the defaults. Let's see, we decided that that was a -45 and lead out a +45. So let's go ahead and hide the display. Well, and that one went, let's double check the plunge parameters. Alright, so it told it to ignore, which is exactly what it did. There we go. So it picks up the pass. All right, so let's go to the verify. All right, and then we'll switch to the machine group. And verify. See. So not in the active machine group, choose cancel to select the active machine, or OK to continue with current settings. Alright, well, we're just going to run into the Okay, so let's check the active setup. Okay. Alright, and there's our strange looking threads, but they're in there. Alright.